to the All In Podcast, the show that explores how the top real estate entrepreneurs have gone all in on their businesses. I'm your host, David Morse, with my co-host, Joe Quattrucci, and I invite you to come along with us as we explore the stories of the most elite professionals in the game today to learn how they went all in and how you and I can do the same. So I just have to ask, are you all in? Guys, welcome back to the All In Podcast. Super pumped to have Tristan. I should have actually, before I said this, it's Ahumada.
It's like, what's the easiest pronunciation? Ahumada. Like, what's the matter with you? It's Ahumada.
What's the matter with you?
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Tristan, what's the matter with you?
Well, you know, I'm just gonna be radically authentic and just leave that in the podcast.
There we go.
Tristan Ahumada, with everyone knows Tristan from Labcoat Agents. Tristan, how you doing, man?
Awesome, bro. Happy to be here. Happy to be doing this with you guys. Excited.
Tristan, thanks so much for joining us. Start off by telling everybody a little bit about who you are, your background, and what is your business.
Yeah, great. So my name is Tristan Ahumada. I'm from Los Angeles, or Ventura County. I'm out in Malibu, California. I run a real estate team out here in Los Angeles, Ventura County. Been an agent since 2004, and I also consult Fortune 500 companies like Facebook. And so now, because of our presence in social media, we've been able to take that route separate from real estate. So I'm blessed to do both things.
Fantastic. Tell me a little bit. Obviously, I know Labcoat. Tell me a little bit about your real estate team. Like, what's that makeup look like?
Yeah. So we have so this is different. So I'm with Keller Williams, right?
Okay.
But years back, before expansion started, I thought, because I was into Google Leads, Craigslist, right? And I'm like, why can't I run Craigslist back in 2007? Why can't I run Craigslist ads in other cities where I'm not there and maybe create teams there? So I started doing that in 2007. And I'm like, oh, this is working really well. Let's go to all these other places all throughout California. So I started expanding. And the first thing that managers started telling me was like, we don't understand how this works. How are people going to get paid? I go, look, it's just referral based. So I expanded into other brokerages, not Keller Williams.
Okay.
So I expanded into C21, Berkshire Hathaway, Remax, you name it. I tested them all out while still being with the company I'm with. And that grew from there. Then I retracted because I'm like, hey, I'm far too spread out. Why not focus on the luxury market in Malibu, Beverly Hills, Calabasas? It's a unique place I'm in. So I did that instead. And I used that same idea. I'm like, well, why don't I just use those offices and brokerages that are killing it in these areas and just bring in an agent from there. We'll have access to all of their listings, all of their open houses, and all of their tools. So now I have agents in Compass, Douglas Elliman, Remax, HomeSmart, EXP, Century 21, Berkshire Hathaway, and I'm with Keller Williams. So
wow.
So it sounds like you almost provide a certain level of support and value to agents at any brokerage. You've kind of taken this idea of expansion and really adapted it and created it to be your own so that you can service agents with anybody.
Dude, because there's no boundaries. I mean, I don't see when I look at agents, I don't see brokerages. I just see, look, are you a nice agent? Are you kind? I look at character, right? I want to get along with you. And I look for, well, how are you doing in real estate? How we can help you. I really don't see color.
That's really cool. So talk to me a little bit about Craigslist. I mean, you started with Craigslist. You do a lot with Craigslist?
As the market shifted in 2007, right, when it tanked to the first time, that recession that we had, I had to shift too because most of my clientele was coming from door knocking, calling expireds, calling for sale by owners, and my past clients. I didn't have too many, and my sphere. So right when that hit, none of that was working, at least not for me. So I had to shift to online. And the first thing that I gravitated to was Craigslist. I learned it from a guy named Craig Proctor at the time who was teaching it. And I just followed his
steps. Came up in our last conversation. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. I can connect you with you guys if you want him on. So just
okay. All right. Hey, we might take you up on that. Sorry.
Great guy. great guy. And so I just followed his steps. It was like 6 pages, and really easy, step by step. And I started posting up ads for listings that I had. And I'm like, whoa, this works. I'm getting leads. And then I posted other agents' listings in my office with permission. And I started getting more leads. And I'm like, what happens if I post 50 ads an hour for 10 hours a day? And so obviously, that went a whole new way. I'm like, I can't even handle the amount of leads I'm getting. So I created systems for it. And then when Realtor.com came out with their product, which was the Co-Bro Connections product, the zip code product, right?
Yep.
I jumped on that because it's practically the same thing as Craigslist. And then when they called me, because my last name starts with an A, and I'm in the same freaking building their headquarters is in Westlake Village, they called me first. And they're like, hey, we've got, yeah, dude, totally. I'm like, I've got this product and this is what it sounds like. I'm like, wait, that sounds like Craigslist. I'm like, I'll take the whole county, right? So I took the whole county, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time, and I was bombarded with leads. I had to immediately grow into a new type of team, right? Because it just didn't exist at the time. And so then we started creating systems and tools, and had to find the right systems for our follow-up and automation. And then Realtor.com's like, well, what the hell are you doing? Because we've never heard of this. They're like, so I told them over the phone, and they're like, can you come in so we can record you and then let other agents know? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Came in, recorded. They're like, this is absolutely amazing. They sent it out to their people, their executives. They're like, who is this guy? Can we put him on stage at NAR? Next thing I know, I get a call saying, hey, can you be on stage at NAR in 2 weeks in San Francisco? I'm like, sure, but you have to fly my family up too. And they're like, yeah, we'll pay for everything. So pay for flight, hotel stay. And then the first time I ever spoke to anybody was 7,000 people in an audience. And I was telling them what I was doing with the online leads. And that started the progression into Labcoat Agents.
Wow. What an incredible journey that is.
Yeah, that's sweet.
First time on stage, 7,000 people.
Dude, I know.
Adrenaline there.
I was like, okay, what do I do now? Just follow the questions.
So let me ask you a little bit about Labcoat Agents. Obviously, it's an enormously successful Facebook group. Tell us a little bit about what was the original idea behind Labcoat Agents, and how has it evolved since you started?
Yeah, so that's perfect time to ask that question, because as I started speaking around the nation for Realtor.com, I started getting the same question over and over. And that was, well, what are the tools you're using? How do you convert? What are the scripts? Right? All along online leads and automation. And so what I did is I said, well, this is cool, but it's the same thing over and over. Maybe I could start a blog on this. So I talked it over with my wife, and I said, hey, this Realtor.com thing ain't going to last forever, because they'll just go to the next shiny object, the next cool agent. Why don't we do something? And she's like, yeah, you should start a Facebook group. And I said, what's a Facebook group? And she's like, well, look, it's this new thing. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even know. And so I just did what my wife told me to do. And
that's great advice. Great advice.
This podcast should be called Do What Your Wife Tells You to Do.
I wholeheartedly agree, Tristan.
and so I did that. And then I told Realtor.com, I'm creating this. You guys want to go in on this with me? We could blow this up. And they're like, no, you do it. I said, okay, but can I have your backing? Like, can you guys tell people about it? Like on webinars that we do? They're like, yeah, we'll push Labcoat Agents. So, talked to a friend. He said, look, awesome. Do this. Pick up the domain name, pick up Instagram, pick up YouTube, pick up everything, and then go all in. I'm like, okay, cool. I did that. Realtor.com started pushing me, and I was the only one posting on our group, right, for like 2-3 months. And then it started growing, and then it started engaging. Realtor.com did help me. And then maybe like 6 months later, one of my friends says, hey, this guy named Nick Baldwin, he seems to understand kind of like social media too. You may want to reach out to him and bring him in as an admin. I said, okay, bring him in. So I brought him in. I didn't talk to the guy for like 6 months. We just kind of messaged each other, just fool around. And then we noticed that this was growing super fast. And so I reached out to him. I'm like, dude, we should do something. You're the guy that posts the most here with me. We should do something and make this kind of like a business. He's like, yeah, I've heard of other groups getting affiliates, like do this affiliate program with other companies if we push their products, if we're using them. I'm like, oh, cool. How does that work? So Nick then told me it works that way. Then Commissions Inc. got a hold of us and they're like, hey, Tristan, you're using Commissions Inc. Awesome. I saw you battle one of our managers out here, and you had amazing scripts, and you're using Commissions Inc. really well. You want to have your first event at our headquarters in Atlanta. And we're like, awesome, let's do it, right? And at that time, we weren't even incorporated. We weren't a company. But then we decided, because we got a massive check, we needed to incorporate, right? We're like, I guess we should create an LLC out of this.
We actually want to do something with this.
And that's how it transitioned to an LLC, because we started getting checks from companies, and we're like, well, what the hell do we do, right? So that's how we founded it, right? So I created it, but Nick and I founded the actual company. And then it grew from there. We shifted off of affiliates, and then Inman started going into our group, grabbing some of the great content and creating blogs from there. And so they started pumping people into our group. And then from there, Facebook got a hold of us. And then that's a whole new story, right? We introduced Facebook lead ads to the whole industry, then introduced dynamic ads for real estate to the whole industry. And so,
okay. There's so much to unpack here. All right. Yeah. There's so much that we can pick up on. So this started in 2007, 2008.
This started, so I guess me starting into online leads and everything, Facebook, 07. Groups didn't originally create, well, Facebook didn't create groups until like, they started releasing them like 2012, 2013. And then 14 was when they said, okay, here are the groups. We've tested it out. Here you go. So in 2014 is when we released I released Labcoat Agents, right? Created.
Okay. And the reason I want to step back that far is just because, I mean, that was 2007. Like you were doing things that people aren't doing today, right? Like technology wise, like, you know, I feel like, you know, so I run brokerage here in Scottsdale. We have 300 and some agents, and I love them all to death. And the majority of them aren't doing online, right? And so you're doing this that's freaking 13 years ago. And I think that's really neat. And it just rolled in. So it sounds like where I'm going is that you were on the cutting edge kind of accidentally. And so like, what do you say to other people about embracing new technology? Because isn't the double-edged sword of embracing new technology is also like the shiny object syndrome.
I think that's part of it. I think what you need, the thing that always comes to mind when this topic comes to mind or is spoken about is, have you guys ever read If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? The book?
I just put that on TV for my boys yesterday.
Okay.
It's a great book.
It is.
And it's on Hulu too, so pick it up on
pick it up on, yeah. That's right. So the story goes, if you give a mouse a cookie, it progresses into other things. Like you end up taking him to school and lots of other stuff happens with the mouse in you. So it's the same thing when you pick up technology, right? And you just have to have that growth mindset that Carol Dweck talks about, you know, growth versus fixed. Growth is, you know, I can do a lot more than I'm thinking I can do, right? There's other ways of doing the things that are out there, and you're always looking for opportunities to do things better. So if you have that mindset, you pick up something. I'll give you an example of what's happening right now. I picked up, I wanted to stream a while back, right? We're like, dude, we need to stream because Facebook Live isn't cutting it right when it came out. We need to do it better. So we discovered Blue Jeans, because Blue Jeans was the one that Facebook was using, and we have meetings with Facebook every week. So we're like, cool, Facebook, this is a cool thing. And so Blue Jeans then wasn't cutting it. So we're like, let's go to Zoom. And then Zoom at the time, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's awesome. And Zoom's good. There's nothing wrong with Zoom. But I still want more, right? Because somebody gave me a cookie, right? That Facebook Live. What did it lead to? Now I'm looking, well, can I brand it? Can I also multi-stream, right? Which then leads me into StreamYard. And now I looked at the stream, but we've tested StreamYard, but there's no webinar portion to it, which sucks because that's the thing we love about Zoom, right? But it does multi-stream. I can stream into LinkedIn if you have that up. I can stream into Facebook. I can stream into YouTube. And then the other part is, well, what about Ecamm? Now I'm looking at Ecamm Live, right? And Ecamm Live is super sexy, but again, it's like you have to be kind of tech oriented to run it through. So now I'm always testing things out, and I'm always okay screwing everything up, right? So I think that's the key. You just have to start with one and know that that's not your final thing. You're never going to stop. And that's what keeps you moving.
Yeah, to put this into perspective for everybody listening, Labcoat Agents currently, as of today, has 119,888 active members in the group, almost 120,000 people. So it's obviously working. And if you don't mind, Tristan, I'd love to just read a brief part of the description you have here on the Facebook page. It says, leaders and experts collaborating together to create the best systems for maximizing lead generation and lead conversion, sharing tips and techniques to grow your business, and discussing the latest tech to help leverage your time. But above all, mindset and culture. We are here to explore the science of real estate. Tell me what you mean when you say, above all, mindset and culture.
So we've noticed over the years, as I now have the opportunities to talk with all these executives, like CEOs of companies I'd never imagined talking to, and best-selling authors, and just amazing people like you guys. What we realize is that it all stems from your approach on how you're living your life on a daily basis. And that's where you decide whether you're going to grow or you're going to just stay where you're at, right? And if you're going to grow and you do choose that life, everything around you is never going to be working at 100%, right? And I think that's part of the mindset that we're talking about, because you can give a tool, a piece of technology to somebody and they can complain the crap out of it, right? Or they can be like, this is cool, but I wonder if it would work if we do this, or I wonder if it works if we do this, or you know what? What's better out there, right? And they're always pushing the envelope and always saying, well, they're never satisfied with what they have, but they make it work, right? So I think that has to do with the mindset. And I think that's what we noticed with everybody that we talked to at a really, really, really high level, right?
It reminds me of, changing the question from, can I do this, to how can I do this? Changing the mindset, changing the way you phrase the question to empower yourself to discover, how can I do this? What's the best way to approach this? And then being able to adapt and stay flexible as you progress to figure out what is the right way to do this Facebook group, for example.
Yeah, that's true. And always having there's always a fear, or you know what? It's kind of like a something that's knocking all the time, saying, look, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to figure this shit out, right? And then you're going to have to catch up.
Yeah.
And so the question I get is, well, how do you decide what to prioritize? Because there's so much out there. I'm reading a book called Limitless by Jim Quick, just came out last week. He says there's approximately 70,000 thoughts a day. 70,000 thoughts a day that each human has. How do you decide, or how does the mind decide what to focus on, right? And so he says it's easy. It comes down to the questions that you're asking yourself, because what happens is as you start asking yourself these questions, and as I start surrounding myself with people like you start asking me questions like you are right now, and the mind has a section called, you've heard of this reticular activating system,
Absolutely.
the RAS.
Yep.
What that does, it's a filter for those 70,000 thoughts. It filters and it says, got it. I understand what you want to focus on. Let me do the focusing for you based on the questions you're asking, the people you're surrounding yourself with, what you're listening to, what you're watching, all of that. So scientifically, it works that way. It's your filters. And if you have the shit filters, you're going to have a shit life.
Definitely.
Pardon my shits. So I don't know.
No, you're good, man. That's so powerful. you've got to be filtering who it is that's speaking to you. And even, I mean, I say this a lot, no one talks to you more than you talk to you. And so what are you talking to yourself about? Because that's what's going to influence the RAS and pick up on the shit that you're talking about. And
yeah. So, on that, dude. So check this out. You have up to 70,000 thoughts a day, right? A lot of 95% of people on Earth have the same thoughts they did yesterday, the week before, the month before, the year before. Why? Because they're not exposing themselves to other ways of thinking through books, through podcasts like this, through other people. They're just not exposing themselves enough or not putting themselves in a position to learn. And that's bad.
Yeah, you're touching on programming, right? Those subconscious thoughts and routines and behaviors that we all have every day that we aren't even aware of because it's just part of our nature at this point. And what you're really saying here is we need to be able to take control and recognize that and decide what we want to let into our brain and then let that affect our behavior and our actions and ultimately the results that we get through those actions.
Yeah, because a lot of what we do is automatic. Our brain loves to take shortcuts, right? As you study the brain, you realize that it's always trying to figure out the shortest way to make something happen. That's why we create habits, right? Automatically. Yeah. So if we then decide, okay, got it, I'm going to change my life, but it's through what I read every day. So my brain catches up on it. It's through who I expose myself to in a good way, right? Not any other way. But people that I talk to routinely. And I watch those people around me, right? And then what webinars am I listening to? What podcasts do I decide to listen to? And I guard my time in regards to Netflix and the music I listen to. That's all important, but that we do automatically. You don't think that watching Netflix and binge watching affects you? Yeah, it does.
Of course.
Yeah. It not only affects you, it affects your kids, it affects those people around you. Are you going to be a professional Netflixer, or what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah. Right. I want to pick up on it. Just one thing, step back just a little bit. You said that, someone when you were launching Labcoat and you were trying to figure out like, what's this going to look like? You said someone, gave you the recommendation to go out, buy the domain, get all this stuff together before you go all in on it. And I think, this is, the way I'm wired. I'm one of those people that I'm constantly learning, right? And sometimes slower to put myself out there because of fear of failure. So I'm learning the things, but before I get to eStream Live or Blue Jeans or any of those things, rather than trying it along the way and failing, I'm just learning about it. And part of my growth journey has been, okay, you can't just learn about it. You actually take some action along the way, because then you don't really truly know what's better until you've experienced, what it is you're looking into.
That's very true.
And so a question that I have is what does that tension look like of, fail, try new things? Like how long do you, especially in the online space, how do you, how long do you go in on something until you move on to the next thing?
Dude, so I'm going to bring up a couple of things and a personal failure that I had too, so you can kind of gauge kind of my authenticity, so you can see that I struggle with things too. And so first, it's a habit that your mind creates based on your actions that you take on a daily basis. So I purposefully put myself in situations where I know I'm going to be pushing myself to do something. So when people say, I'm the total opposite. When people say guard your time, make sure that I'm not to the level of Warren Buffett to be like, I say no to everything, right? I'm not there yet. And I think people take that too literal. So I'm the opposite. If you ask me for something, I'll be like, yeah, I'm there, right? Do you want to do a podcast? Yes. Do you want to speak? Yes. Do you want to show up here? Yes. Do you want to test this out with us? Yes. Do you want to test this cool thing out? Yep, I do. That's me. And what happens is it forces me to grow, because I'm in these situations now where I'm like, oh crap, I'm committed, right? I put it into my calendar. Now I have no way out unless I want to look bad too. Like if I said, guys, sorry, I can't show up today. right? I'd be like, oh, that kind of sucks. And now you guys think I'm an asshole, right? And be like, oh, this guy sucks.
That's
So
definitely
I
what
don't
was
want
running through my head.
That's what drives me too, right? So I overcommit myself to do things that I know are going to make me grow and challenge me. So that's number one. The other thing that I do is I'm watching what other people are doing that I strive to be like, just slightly ahead of what I'm doing, right? So I'm watching those other influencers. I'm watching those other people on social. I'm watching those other CEOs and executives, and I'm talking to them if I can and reaching out to them and saying, look, there are two companies right now, Breakthrough Broker, which is pretty massive in our industry, and Keeping Current Matters. And both of those CEOs are friends of mine. But in regards to business, they've structured their businesses really well. They have a really good org chart. And me, it's my first time running a multi-million-dollar company, right? I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time, so I have to reach out to these people. And so one of the things that I'm working on is an org chart for the employees and staff that we have. So I reach out to people that are doing it better than me. And my ego's out the door. I'm like, hey guys, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm running a multi-million-dollar company. I don't even know how I got here. I just know I know how to do one thing right, and that's give content and value. Help me, right? And they come in and help you. So that's another thing that I do. I go out and ask for help to where I want to be. I find those people to help me. And then lastly, I'm scared. I'm scared all the time, guys, and that's what drives me. And I'll tell you that fear comes from so many different places, specifically from experiences that I've had in my past that drive me to just want to do better. And I think that balance that you're talking about, so Nick and I both had an experience that when we were going to an Inman event. It was an Inman award ceremony back in 2016. We were in a bus, August 2016, and we were heading there. We were sitting next to this gentleman, and he was talking about his experience with Tinder. And his experience,
no comment.
You know where this is going. His experience with Tinder and how he had found his wife cheating on him with his cousin.
Oh,
walked in on them.
Yikes!
Right, crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, this just became a whole different show, guys. So.
Yeah.
So
today on You Can't Make This Shit Up.
Dude, I know. Tell me about it. And I'm sitting in a bus here with him, right? And hold on, there's 3 women sitting at the very front, maybe like 10 rows in front of us. And that's all that's on the bus, nobody else. And so he's telling us a story, and he's like, dude, that is the closest time I've ever come to hitting a woman. But I didn't. He said, I didn't. I backed out. I left because I didn't want to be in that position. And so now I'm single, and now I'm on Tinder, right? And we're like, oh, dude, well, at least you're in a better place now, right? And this 15-minute conversation turns out to then be a blog on Inman, where we get over 500,000 reads on the blog, indicating that it was myself and Nick who are on Tinder cheating on our wives and hitting women.
Oh
right?
My God.
Tell me about it. So we had to deal with that backlash that wasn't true. And at the time, our Facebook community was, I think it was like 20,000 people, right? And so we were bombarded left and right, people texting us, calling us, emailing us, messaging us, saying that we were pigs, we needed to die, we needed to end our community, and we need to hand it over to other people. And I'm like, you know what? F all of you. I did nothing, and I'm not apologizing to anybody, right? So it's the total opposite of what our PR department told us to do, by the way. Our PR department said,
let me thank you for being super transparent that obviously your career and really nobody's career is perfect along the way, and you do run into these challenges that you have to overcome. And I really appreciate that you even touched on fear, and that, you know, that's what you use to drive you. And as much as you know and as successful as you've been so far, you're constantly looking to expand yourself as a leader by getting into conversations with people that are going to ask you tough questions to help you kind of self-discover what is that next step. I think that's a super important message to hear. Tristan, let me kind of shift gears on you real quick. Did I hear that you actually run the real estate advisory board for Facebook?
So yeah, there's a hidden advisory board, right?
Tell us about that. I mean, how did that happen, and what does that actually even mean?
How do you get on this committee?
Right.
It's a secret committee. Check this out. So we were lucky enough to get in front of Facebook at that same Inman event that we were at. That this happened too. So Facebook was in the audience, and then I think it was Nick who was on stage speaking at the time. He was talking about Facebook lead ads and the ratio that he had on lead conversion. And so Facebook was like, wow, that's awesome. Came up to us after, gave us a card, said, hey, talk to us. Called them up, talked to them. They were impressed, and they said, hey, why don't you guys come up to our headquarters so we can talk further? So we talked to them. They had this vertical, the real estate side for Facebook, a whole new vertical. They had plans on growing it, and we just happened to be at the right place at the right time with them. Then months pass, we connect more. They introduce us to a lot of other things that they're doing. Our partnership and friendship grows from there. Then they realize they want to go to brokerages like Keller Williams. We connect them to Keller Williams at the time when you guys are familiar with Chris Heller.
Yeah.
All right. So when Chris was in charge, Facebook's like, Tristan, connect us to Keller Williams. So I'm like, okay. So I hit up Chris Heller. I'd be like, Chris, meet Facebook. Facebook, meet Keller Williams, work together. So nothing happened. So I had to email him 6 months later. I'm like, guys, do something. Create some shit together.
Facebook.
Right? Facebook, create something together. They finally decided to create something together. And that was what you have now in command, right? The whole Facebook portion, lead ads through it. And they created that from that. And then we connected them to Berkshire Hathaway. We connected them to all the brokerages almost. And so that partnership grew because they said, got it, these guys have value and they're giving all of this for nothing, right? So now we have a friendship with them, and they said, hey guys, we're starting to understand this real estate world a lot better. And we see that you guys are connected to everyone. Let's start a real estate advisory board. Who do you want to bring on? And I'm like, okay, I got this person and this person. Let's bring them on. And so now we talk and we get together and just really talk about how the real estate industry is changing and how they can come in and help it with their tools.
So for clarification, anybody that's not familiar, Keller Williams has a CRM called KW Command, and within Command, we have the ability to run campaigns, and that's what Tristan touched on, using the campaign section within Facebook to create, it's called the Lead Accelerator. And we've been using this, I don't know, for at least the last 6 months or so, and really having a really great conversion rates and turnover with capturing internet leads at a very, very low cost through the Lead Accelerator within Command. Are you saying, Tristan, that you had some part in basically helping that relationship come to fruition, or at least making that introduction so that it could kind of evolve into what it is today?
Oh, 100%. It was me. I won't.
Let's just be clear with everybody. It was Tristan.
Yeah, that was 100% me.
Very cool.
Then,
That's
we
awesome.
had to push them again to make it happen. So yes.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Well, way to lead follow up there. Good job.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So let's dive a little bit into groups, because what you have this awesome YouTube series on creating groups, and the majority of our listeners, real estate agents from every company out there. But I want to give them something about Facebook groups, something actionable about Facebook groups, like the process that you go through. Here's the thing. I've been, like you, creating Facebook groups and doing a lot in social since 2000 whatever. And you said something the other day. The majority of Facebook groups fail, right? Like they get no engagement, whatever. So what are your, give us some killer steps on creating a Facebook community that actually delivers value and results in leads? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the number one thing you have to look at is what's your passion. I always start on with what's your passion, right? If you're going to start a company, if you're going to start a Facebook group, it's the same thing. Start with something that you really, really, really enjoy doing, because it's not going to be easy. Yeah, it'll be easy to start the group, but to gain momentum and grow it and put up with the fact that nobody's posting and nobody's engaging, how do you keep going, right? So number one thing is start with a passion. And there are 4 types of groups that you can create. Number one is like what I call type 1, special interests, kayaks, cats, dogs. I mean, dude, you've seen cat groups out there, right?
Oh, cat groups are ridiculous.
Yeah, the best. So type 1, special
There's basically
interest.
a group for everything that you could imagine.
Dude,
and if there's not, you could create it.
That's right. That's what we're talking about. Type 2 is a community type group. So you're looking at a city, a county, an area, right? Like a community. And you see real estate agents build this a lot more, which they do a great job on. And type 3, business group, the one that comes to mind is Peloton. So you go into the Peloton community. I don't know what it's at now, but when I last looked at it, it was like 300,000. And they use it for not only retention, but they use it also to inspire other people to use the bike and to get it, because they let me in and I don't have a bike yet, but I want one now, right? Yeah. So you can blame the Peloton group. That's the business type. And then type 4 is what we are in Labcoat Agents. It's really a group of people that have the same beliefs or standards where they give advice or find solutions. That's type 4. So you can identify which one those are, but go with your passion. And then the next thing I tell people to do is really to brand it. Start early. Think about the brand really early. If you think about how we started with the brand, and I thought, I shut myself in a room with my lead coordinator at the time, and I said, this is what I want. We're going to we'll be scientists for the real estate world. And so that's why we came up with a lab coat, right? And agents. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let's do that. And then we picked Fiverr to go get a little logo, and then we grew it from there. So we decided on the colors early on. And like my friend told me, pick up all the social media on it. Imagine that you're massive, right?
Yeah.
Don't leave it to chance to just screw up later and have other people take it away from you. So
yeah, definitely start with the end in mind. And hey, Tristan, do you think people do real estate agents particularly, do they undersell brand?
They do, and I think the bigger companies understand it really well. What I think they forget to realize is that you are the brand, right? As a real estate agent, you are the brand. So the things that you put up on social media reflect directly on who you are and how you work. And I don't think real estate agents really understand that. And it's no fault of our own. Like I said, I don't know how to run a multi-million-dollar company yet, right? And real estate agents don't understand that side of the business because they don't realize that they're a brand. We come in thinking, let's do real estate and drive nice cars and sell homes and talk to people, right? They don't fully comprehend and connect all the dots that are involved. This is an actual business, right? You need a P&L. You need to run it like a business. Yeah, you probably need a CPA. You need a bookkeeper because you suck at taxes. So yeah, you need that. And you need a brand. You need to run a brand. You need to run it like a company on social media and have a newsletter, and then start creating an organizational chart, and then start looking at where you're going to go all in on for your business. Where are those funds going to come from, right? Yeah. And I think because we don't do that, a lot of agents burn out from the very beginning. They just don't realize that they're running a real business.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm consulting my agents all the time. We want you to think like a business person day one, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, Tristan, because even you're proof that even in 2007, like for the realtor, brand mattered, and it's even more so now. And so yes, it gets talked about a lot, and you still got to be reminded about it. You have to be building brand. That's what Mindshare results from. And so get on Fiverr. We'll link it up in the show notes. Get on Fiverr and get a freaking logo.
Yeah, that's right. They'll probably screw it up the first time, but don't be shy to let them know to do a better job.
That's right. Very cool.
Yeah. There's 99 Designs too. You guys can take a look at 99 Designs. It's pretty good.
99 Designs is awesome as well. You're right. Yeah, definitely. Well, those are awesome tips on Facebook groups as well. With the shift recently that's taken place in our market, I just wanted to ask you about digital and what you see in the future for real estate as it pertains to digital. Anything new on the horizon? Like how's this shaping us right now?
I think what we don't know is how this is going to affect everyone, right? We've never been through this before. And the first thing that I did I think it was the first 3 days of us going to lockdown was I reached out to, I got my phone. I said, okay, who are the smartest people I know, right? So I reached out to all the CEOs of all the brokerages that you guys know. And I reached out to all the best-selling authors I know and all the executives that I know in all of the companies. And I spent 2 days talking to them. And I think the one thing that always stood out for me was that they all embraced uncertainty. For the most part, all the leaders did. They said, hey, dude, we don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you the actions that we're going to take and who they are. I'm like, oh, that's cool. They all embrace the fact that they don't know what's going to happen, but they're taking action. And through that action, they're creating clarity for the people they lead, right? And so you can see it's clear. The fact that we don't know how long this is going to last and whether we're going to have another dip into this a month from now, 2 months from now, I don't know, right? And since we've never been through this where the whole world is shut down, and people keep on referring back to the Spanish flu and SARS, or SARS, but we've never really been through this as a whole world, right? And we don't know the economic ramifications of all this. So what we are doing is we're saying, hey guys, this is what could possibly happen. And these are the things we need to be doing now to shape our business for the future, because you won't see a change in this until 6 months from now, probably. So you need to already be looking at, well, how am I going to approach pre-foreclosures and short sales and foreclosures, right? What technology is out there, like Realty Tech or Land Voice, going through and checking out those, creating a process already on how to approach those. And then looking at ways that you can connect with people digitally a lot better. Look, I hear all the time, email is dead, but I hear it from people that spam me, right? Because they suck at delivering great value and content. I started a newsletter called A Brilliant Tribe, December 31st, 2019, not even 5 months ago. I have 45,000 people on it, and my open ratio is 48%. 1 out of every 2
48% in email.
And it's because I knew from the very beginning, I'm going to give value. I'm going to give value. Here it is. It's for executive. It's for CEOs. It's for everyone around the world that wants to be a leader. And I have CEOs, best-selling authors, text me back and email me. He's like, what the hell, Tristan? I didn't know you could write. I'm like, I didn't either until I tested this shit out. So,
right.
So I'm telling my agents, I'm like, hey guys, we're going to start a newsletter, and this is what it's going to look like. And we're going to touch our clients, our database. And we're going to separate them in our CRM and look to see which one are A, B, C, Ds. And we're going to email them this. We're going to get our data from, have you guys heard of Curbed LA? In LA, we have this cool thing called Curbed. It hits all the metropolitan areas. It might hit Phoenix. I don't know.
Probably.
But we go on Curbed and we check out the latest news and information. They make it fun. They make it measurable. So lots of research goes into some of their some of their articles. So we repurpose them and send that out along with videos that we do and along with content that we know people need trending, like PPP. What the hell is PPP? What's EIDL, right? What's in California? What's PUA, right? What the hell is that? So we give this information in newsletter format. And one of my agents has an 80% open ratio. I'm like, dude, get out of here. That's sick. And he goes, yeah, you were right. Email does work. That's one way that we're shifting, right? Yeah. A lot more social media, where some agents are still shy in using social media because they say, oh, well, I don't know what to do on it. And that's what we tell them. Look, just pick one outlet that you like, right? And go all in on it. And here's the format, right? Teach, right? Give people advice on what to do. So teach, and then talk about yourself, and then give them advice on certain things that you do on a daily basis. Like, I want to know how you guys are functioning at home and teaching your kids if you've got kids, right? Yeah. Just make it fun. So it's just a cycle, put content into play, and then know that the world is changing around you and it's not going to look the same a year from now. And
I think you're approaching this whole idea of a shift with the absolute right mindset. And while you were talking, it reminded me of something I just heard Gary Keller say, which is the only way to predict the future is to actually help create it. And although there's an enormous amount of things kind of out of our control at this point with everything going on, there are still quite a few things that we can control. Staying open-minded, asking ourselves the question, how can I accomplish whatever it is? and not just listening to what the banter is about emails don't work or open rates or whatever, but finding a way to add so much value that you get a 48% open rate on an email because it's something that people actually want to read. It's relevant to the times, and you're basically still lead generating in the market of the moment.
And I think that the other thing that I picked up too is it's the importance of building on a model. You don't always have to be recreating the wheel. Like let's look back, let's step back, let's repurpose what email has created tons of millionaires in the last decade, right?
Yeah, very true, man.
And
very
actually
true.
just repurposing it, saying what is going to bring the most value to people and redoing it.
The movers.
My newsletter is getting better.
Let me just add on to that, David. The movers and the shakers of the world are professional modelers, right? Even in the MREA, it says don't try to get creative until you start with a foundation that's proven. So I'm not saying you go out there and copy every model you've ever seen. Find the one or two that work and adapt it for your business. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Model a profession that makes sense. And sometimes it's even outside of your own industry, right? The way that we approach customer service and customer experience within real estate doesn't necessarily have to come from a real estate business, right? We look at hotel chains and how they're able to effectively provide that experience to customers so they keep coming back, so we can learn lessons from other industries and model those same behaviors within our own real estate businesses.
I think that's where you look at other businesses right now and see how are they adapting to what's changing right now. Right. And then you look and say, got it. Or how are brands adapting on social media? What's the message they're delivering? Right. And then you do, and you try to do your best and copy those as well and just add the real estate flavor to it. Definitely, but yeah, you definitely do that. Guys, there's 5 things that I'm doing. I'm telling my team to do. I actually have a theme. I said, hey, team, we're going to call this Evolve 2020, right? Because we want to have them buy into it. I had to name it. Yeah. Right. It's part of the whole branding. So I named it. It's called Evolve 2020. We're focusing on your database through newsletters, focusing on pre-foreclosures, focusing on online buyer seminars and online seller seminars, which we've already been running for 6 weeks since week 1 of this shit that happened. Guys, if you want to know how it runs, I did a whole thing on it on YouTube, so you guys can take a look at that.
We'll definitely link it. We'll link it up in the show notes and make sure that everyone can see that. Hey, Tristan, we have, I want to be respectful of your time. We have 3 questions that we ask every single guest. And so if you don't mind, let's just spend a couple minutes diving into that. Question number 1, who is the biggest business influence on your life?
Biggest business influence on my life? Dude, that's a really good question. The first person that comes to, that's a great question. I'm just going to go with the first person that comes to mind then, and that's Gary Vee. I don't always agree with his politics, right? Or with his approach or even with his answers, but I like that he's taken action, massive action above anybody else. So
that's great. Question number 2 for you. What's a book that you've read in the past that had a big impact on your business? Or what's a book that you're currently reading and how is that having an impact on your business?
The book I always recommend is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Extreme Ownership changed the way I look at life, period. And it's something that I read recently too, like 3 years ago when it came out. So that's one that I read, and one that I'm reading right now, like this minute, is called Limitless by Jim Quick.
Love it. Love that. And our very last question for you today, Tristan, we're big believers here at the All In Podcast of taking action, right? And moving the chips all in, so to speak. So what's one thing that you would tell all of our viewers here today that they could go take action on immediately to move the chips all in and take that next step in their business?
The number one thing you need to be doing right now is create a plan where it allows you to post consistently to social media. Go Google the top 10 websites in the world, most visited websites. Number 1 is Google. Number 2 is YouTube. Number 3 is Facebook, right? Number 4 is Twitter. Number 5 is something called Baidu. Don't worry about it. Number 6 is Instagram. Out of those top 6, they're all social media. What does that tell you? The world that we live in on the online is social media. If you don't have a plan for it, to post daily to at least one outlet, you're missing out on what you have to be focused on right now. Forget about the future. Right now is the time to go all in on social, and you have to have a plan on it. It can't just be like, hey, I feel like Instagram today. Oh, Facebook looks good today. Go all in on one, model it, and then change to another one, and then keep on adding it.
That's such great advice. Great advice that everyone needs to take action on. Tristan, thank you so much for spending time with us today. This has been a lot of fun. I know I've learned a lot, and our listeners have too. So I really appreciate it. Last thing before we let you go, where can everyone reach out, and where can they find what's going on with Labcoat Agents?
Yeah, you can always find me on YouTube. It's Tristan Ahumada on YouTube, and Instagram, Tristan.Ahumada on Instagram, and just go to Labcoat Agents. You can find us there. We have a website, we're on Facebook. Just type Tristan Ahumada on Google, and then just find me there.
Just type Tristan, everyone. He comes up first. He is the Tristan. So awesome. Dude, thank you so much for hanging with us today, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the All In Podcast. We want to invite you to find all of today's resources from our show page at aipodcast.co. We also ask that you take just 1 minute to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. This is how we grow and how we're able to bring you the best content each and every week. Now go play all in.